Alright, so you should only be watching this video if you have already completed the Slope-Intercept Form Review Quiz 1 in Canvas. So at that point, you were able to see which questions you got correct, which is hopefully most of them. And then if there are questions that you got incorrect, you need to go through this video, skip through, you know how to do that, find the question that you or questions you got wrong, and watch as I work through those and rework them out with me. After this, you're going to take another Canvas quiz, and if you don't watch these videos and learn from them, you're going to make the exact same mistakes on the next quiz, and it'll become pretty obvious that you're not watching the videos. So in this question here, we're given a table. We've got some x values, we've got some y values, and it wants to know what are the slope and the y-intercept of this function. So when I see the word slope and y-intercept, I'm thinking y equals mx plus b. So next thing I need to think about is, how do I get this? Well, I know that I can find a slope if I have two ordered pairs. Looking at the table, I have three ordered pairs. So I'm going to pick my positive values. So I'm going to take 110 and I'm going to take 316 and I'm going to label them x1, y1, x2, y2. So I'm going to set up my slope equation here, and I realize that once I find the slope, I'm actually going to have the answer. So I'm going to do 16 minus 10 in my numerator where I subtract my y values, and then 3 minus 1 in my denominator. Well, 16 minus 10 is 6, and 3 minus 1 is 2, while 6 divided by 2 is going to give us 3. So we already know that it needs to be answer choice C because it's not a third, it's not negative a third, and it is not a negative value of the slope. So just for fun, I'm going to prove that the y-intercept is 7. So I'm going to take one of my ordered pairs. I'm going to use 110. So my y value here is going to be 10. I'm going to say 10 is equal to, well, the value of m here is 3. So I'm going to do 3 multiplied by my x value in this problem, which was 1, because my x value is 1, plus b. So I'm going to continue to solve here. This is still going to be 10. 3 times 1 gives me 3 plus b. I'm solving for my y-intercept, so when I subtract 10 minus 3 gives me 7. So I've got a y-intercept of 7. So if I were writing the equation, my slope of 3 would get attached to x, and then my y-intercept, which is positive, would be plus 7 along the back there. All right, we're going to look at the next question. So this is the type of question that we were starting to think about when this hit, when we went home, and so let's look at it now. So in this one, they already gave us the equation here. So we've got y is equal to 8x plus 73. Well, before I start thinking about the context of the problem, I already know that my slope here is 8. So that means something is increasing by 8 every time x increases by 1. So whatever our x value is, every time it increases by 1, my y value is going to be increasing by 8. So this is increasing by 8 over and over again. This here, my y-intercept is going to be my starting value. So whatever this is talking about, the 73 represents the starting value of the equation. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to find my information here. Well, it says y is her heart rate and x is the minutes she's been exercising. So this is going to be the heart rate. And my x is going to be the minutes exercising. So this problem adds in the number 10 just to be a little bit confusing here. So 10 is a number of minutes. So really, somewhere in this, we have an x value of 10 that we're going to have to think about. So this tells me right here that y is my heart rate. So after 0 minutes, her heart rate's 73. So that means the starting value of her heart rate is 73. This 8 means that every minute she's exercising, her heart rate's going to increase by 8. So I'm going to start looking at my answer choices here. So answer choice A says her starting heart rate is 73 beats per minute. Well, starting heart rate is like initial value. So I look down here, the initial value is 73. So I'm starting to think that this is true. Well, it says which one cannot be drawn from the equation. So it is true that her initial heart rate is 73, so that is not our answer. The next one says that Kalinda's heart rate increases 8 beats per minute. Well, 8 beats per minute, that is indicating a slope. We look down here at our equation, our slope is 8, and it is increasing by 8 each minute. So that's also true, so that cannot be our answer. Kalinda's heart rate will be back to the starting rate 10 minutes after she stops exercising. Well, this equation doesn't have anything to do with after she's not exercising anymore. So this equation does not let us figure anything out about that. So chances are this is going to be our answer because since our equation tells you about her heart rate while it's exercising, it can't tell us anything about after she stops. So this right here is looking like our answer. But let's go ahead and check D just in case. So it says her finishing heart rate is 153 beats per minute. Well, in the question, it tells us that she's going to exercise for 10 minutes. So I'm going to go into my equation and I'm going to do 8 multiplied by 10 plus 73 to figure out what her heart rate's going to be after 10 minutes. Well, 8 times 10 gives me 80, and 80 plus 73 is 153. So based on this equation, her finishing heart rate after 10 minutes is going to be 153 beats per minute. So this is also true, so that is not our answer either, and we're left with this one. All right, so let's look at the next one. This one is all about whether or not you are reading carefully. So in this question, it says, what is the rate of change of the function shown on the graph and the rate of the change of this function? So they're giving you an equation. They're also giving you a graph. Well, if we look here at this equation, we know that this piece right here is not our slope, and this piece right here is actually our y-intercept. So we look at our answer choices. They're not asking us about the y-intercept, so we go back to the equation. It's asking us about rate of change. That's the slope. So slope is always attached to the variable. So for our equation here, we know that the slope is a value of positive 2. Well, I look at my graph here. I already know that my slope here has to have a negative value. So really, I go here, it says for both the graph and the equation, the rate of change is 2. Well, that can't be true because I already know that the graph is negative. For both the graph and the equation, the rate is negative 2. I already know that can't be true because I already know that the slope is positive in the equation. It says for the graph, the rate of change is positive 2. Well, that can't be true because in that graph, you have a negative slope. So without doing much thinking here, you've already got answer choice A. But let's go ahead and prove it. So I've got a point here, 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 I've got a point here. And for each one of these, you're counting down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. So that's negative 2 over 1, and we always put our vertical change over our horizontal. So we'd have negative 2 over 1, which is a slope of negative 2, giving us answer choice A. Read carefully. Some of us might have missed that there was even an equation in this, so be thoughtful while you are working. All right, so this is one of the more challenging questions here. So we've got 2 different people. We've got Benjamin's information is given to us in a table. No, that's not a table, in a graph. And then down here we have the other person, Layla's information is given to us in a table. So let's go ahead and figure out what they want to know before we do too much work here. So it says using y as the number of values and m as the number of months, which equation models the account that is growing at a faster rate. So if we want to know which one's growing at a faster rate, we want to know which one has the larger rate of change. So we're going to have to look at each one of these situations, and for each one, we're going to need to find the slope. Because if I want to know which one has the account that has a faster rate of change, I want to know whose account has the larger slope. So really, if I look here, my slopes are the ones that have the variable attached to them. So 400 is not bigger than 600, so it's probably not this one. Probably going to be this one since that one has the bigger slope, but who knows? Let's figure this one out. So we go up to the table, or the graph, we know we need a slope. So in order to find the slope, I need two ordered pairs. So I'm going to take this one, which is 1, 1200. I'm going to take this one, which is 2, 1800. And I'm going to find my slope, x1, y1, x2, y2. So I do 1800 minus 1200 in the numerator and 2 minus 1 in the denominator. Well, 1800 minus 1200 is going to give me 600. 2 minus 1 is going to give me 1. So the rate of change here is going to be 600. So great, let's move on and look at the rate of change for the table. So I'm going to use the first two ordered pairs here. So that's going to be 1, 1400. Oh, I forgot the one there. 1, 1400 and 2, 1800. So when I go to set up my slope, that's going to be 1800 minus 1400 over 2 minus 1. Well, 1800 minus 1400 is going to give me 400. 400 over 1 is 400. So I already know here that this equation is going to be y equals 600x, or I guess they're using m, but the variable is going to be attached to the number 600. And this one's going to be y is equal to 400x. Well, if I want to answer this question, it's asking me which one models the account that's growing at a faster rate. I need the one with the bigger slope. I've got 600 here, I've got 400 here. I already know that my equation is going to have a slope of 600, so let's go look. Well, the only one that has a slope of 600 is answer choice B. But let's go back to this. So if we're looking here, we also know that we'd have a point right here, and that would be a y-intercept of 600, so we know that B would be 600. So sure enough, it would be 600x plus 600. And you look at your answer choices, and that's what we already selected. I know they put the slope piece second here. Don't let that be discouraging. You're good. Typically, you put it in the front, but as long as you have the slope value attached to the variable, you know what you're doing. All right, this one should be pretty straightforward. We've got two values. Two ordered pairs, and it's asking us about rate of change, which is slope, and initial value, which is y-intercept. So this is y equals mx plus b. So I've got x1, y1. I've got x2, y2. So I go to set up my slope. That's going to be -1 minus 8. And that's going to be 3 minus 0. So that's going to be -9 over 3, which is -3. So I already know my slope here is -3. So I go look here. Can't be either one of these. My rate of change is the one that is -3. So honestly, if you look here, you should know that anytime the x value is 0, the y value with that is the initial value. It is the value of b, but let's go ahead and prove it. So we've got y equals mx plus b. So we're going to use 0, 8. That means that our y value is 8. Our slope we just calculated is -3, and this ordered pair x is 0, so that's -3 times 0 plus b. Well, that gives us 8 is equal to 0 plus b. Obviously, this doesn't mean anything, so we have that that our value of b is 8. So we go look here, rate of change is 3, initial value is 8. If I were writing an equation, that would be y is equal to -3x plus 8, or technically we could say 8 minus 3x, as long as that negative piece is with our 3. All right, so we have another one here that is having us analyze an equation. So when we look here, we're going to start with our equation, then we're going to go back into the problem and pick out what each piece here means, and then we'll actually look at each one of these answer choices. So it's giving us y is equal to 13x plus 36. So just looking at this, we already know that in our situation, it begins with the value of 36, and then something is going to increase by 13 each time that this value changes. So x here is going to represent the number of weeks since the beginning of the season. So this is going to be number of weeks. And then y here is going to be the number of laps swum. So laps swum, that's a weird word, swum. Okay, so we've got this situation. So now we know that this 36 means that in the beginning, they had swum 36 laps at the start. So now we look here, number of weeks. So this means they began at 36, and each week it's going to increase by 13. So this one wants to know which statement is correct. So answer choice A says they were able to swim about 36 laps at the beginning of the season. Well, that would indicate if it was at the beginning, that would be talking about our initial value. So I'd look at my equation. Is my initial value 36? It is, actually. So this indicates this actually might be our answer here, because an initial value of 36 says that when this whole thing began, the value is already at 36. So let's look back at that, but let's keep going. It says they were able to swim about 13 laps at the beginning of the season. Well, we actually already know that this means that our initial value should be 13. So this 13 here means that it's changing by 13 each week. It doesn't mean it started with 13. They started with 36. It's changing by 13 each week. So it can't be answer choice B. So it says next week they will swim about 36 more laps each practice than this week. So this one here would indicate that it's changing by 36. Well, it's not changing by 36. If we look at our equation, it's actually changing by 13. So this can't be our answer choice. It's actually true that next week they're going to swim about 13 more laps each practice than this week. So it's not going to be that one. Then this one says last week they swam 23 laps at each practice. Well, this situation doesn't tell us anything about last week. This equation is about now into the future. So we cannot make any assumptions using answer choice D. So that gives us here answer choice A. So again, our y-intercept is our starting value, what it begins with, and our slope is how much it changes each time the number of weeks in this situation increases by 1. Our y value is going to increase by 13. All right, so this one, before you even start, you should cross out 2 answer choices. So you look here, and all of these have positive slopes, so we're good on that. But we already know that our y-intercept in this equation is this value right here, which is -3. So whatever our problem is, it's going to end with -3. So I can cross out answer choice A because it says +3, and I can cross out answer choice C because it says +3. So now I got to go between 3/4 and 4/3. They are trying to figure out whether you know whether it's y over x over y, vertical, horizontal, blah, blah, blah. We all know that it is y over x, and y over x, vertical. Oh no, I am watching CBS on demand, but it needs to stop. Okay, here we go. All right, back to learning. So vertical over horizontal. So I go back to my equation here, and they give me this point and this point. Well, that's even more counting. I don't want to use all those points, so I'm just going to go from right here to right here because I know that that's going to be the same. So if I'm right here, I'm going up 1, 2, 3, and I'm going over 2. That is not actually an option. So I guess that's not what's happening here. Because there's not a point there. So let's go ahead and... Oh yeah, true. There's not a point there. But where there is a point is right here. and also right here, here, and here. So let's continue there. So this is actually not up 3, that is up 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is over 1, 2, 3. So when I go to figure out what my slope will be, it's going to be y over x, vertical over horizontal. So that is 4 over 3. So that allows me to choose answer choice D. So in this problem, they give you a lot of unnecessary information. All it is asking for is the slope of the line segment AB. So you need point A, which is 4, 1. You need point B, which is 3, 6. They even gave you the positive ones. So you've got x1, y1, x2, y2, and you find the slope. So that's going to be 6 minus 1 over 3 minus 4. Be careful here because your brain isn't going to think about this. You're going to think that the difference is 1. Be careful here. So we've got 6 minus 1 does give us 5. 3 minus 4, do not forget it's not 1. 3 minus 4 is negative 1. So that is going to give us a slope here of negative 5. All right, so this question is asking us, in which scenario does the ticket revenue increase faster? If it's asking us about increase, it is asking us about rate of change, which we know is the same thing as the slope. Well, when you look at your answer choices here, you don't see the word slope, you see unit rate. Well, unit rate is the same thing as the slope. So when I go to my equation here, this one's really easy. I know that the slope is always attached to the variable, so I know that my slope here is 35. So when I go to my table, now I need to find my slope. It's no big deal. We've been doing this all day. So we've got 140 and we have 5, 200. So that's x1, y1, x2, y2. So that's going to be 200 minus 40 over 5 minus 1. With 200 minus 40, that's going to be 160 over 4. Well, 160 over 4, well, 16 divided by, that's going to give me 40 here. So this rate of change here is going to be 40. This one's 35. So it's saying in which scenario does the revenue increase faster? And it is in scenario 1 because the unit rate is 40. Also, unit rate is the value when x is 1. Well, the value when x is 1 is 40. So if you think about unit rate back from 6th grade, that is actually where that comes back into play now. All right, so you can sense that rate of change, slope, and initial value y-intercept are important because they keep giving you more and more questions about it. So you will be more likely to make an integer error here if you do not pull the values off of the table and put them as ordered pairs because that's what we are used to doing. So we've got x1, y1, we've got x2, y2. So here, this is going to be 13 minus negative 7. Careful with that double negative there. This is going to be 2 minus negative 2. So again, that is important because this is actually 13. What does that become? Plus 13 plus 7 is 20. This is going to also become plus. So 2 plus 2 is 4. So we know that 20 divided by 4 gives us a slope of 5. So we already have an answer here, but because we are good mathematicians, we're going to finish the problem. So I'm going to find my initial value. I'm going to solve for b. That's y equals mx plus b. I'm going to use my positive values, so my y is going to be 13. I just solved for my slope, said it was 5. Well, when I had a 13 as my y value, my x value was 2, so that's 5 times 2 plus b. I already know that b is going to be 3, but I get 13 equals 10 plus b, which is perfect because when I subtract, I get that b is equal to 3. So that's a rate of change, a slope of 5, initial value of 3. This is y equals 5x plus 3, or 3 plus 5x. Remember, the important thing is that the rate of change is attached to the variable. All right, two ways to solve this one. So first is by counting. You've also got a point right there. So I'm going up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. That's a vertical of 1, a horizontal of 2, vertical 1, horizontal 2. We know that the slope is y over x. So y is vertical, so that's 1 over 2. So we should have an answer already. At least they're all positive. There's none that we need to cross out to begin with. So if I want to verify this, I can also check my ordered pairs. I've got 2, 1. I've got 6, 3. So that's x1, y1, x2, y2. That's 3 minus 1 over 6 minus 2. Well, that's 2 over 4, which is 1/2. So either way there, you get a slope of 1/2, which is answer choice D. All right, so this one looks tricky because it talks about 10% of something and percents are obnoxious. But here's the thing, guys. If you look at this question, you don't even have to think about what a percent is. It says a restaurant hostess is paid $50 plus 10% of the wait staff's tips for each night. So $50 here is the y-intercept. You need some situation that's going to have some slope attached to a variable plus 50. Well, if you look at your answer choices here, this is not plus 50, so it's not that. This has 50, but it's attached to the variable, and that's not. We know that the rate of change would be attached to the variable and that 50 is our initial value, so it's not that. This has 50 right here all by itself. It's starting value, so it is going to be answer choice C, because when you look down here, there's no plus 50 here. That doesn't even make sense. So this question can be figured out but without really doing anything. So 10% of the wait staff's tip. Well, we know that the word of in math means to multiply, so that's telling us that we have something that's going to be multiplied by a total. Well, the total is going to be X because it says X represents the wait staff's tip. So 10% of the wait staff's tip is going to be 10% multiplied by the amount of money they made by on what does X represent? The waitstaff's tips, yes. Oh, because the hostess makes part of the waitstaff's tips. That does make sense. Okay, so we've got 10% here. Well, 10%, if I multiply this by 10, that's not going to be helpful here. When we have percents, we have to convert them into decimals. So if I take 10%, I divide it by 100, 10% written as a decimal is 0.10, 10%. That's 10 out of 100. So this is going to be multiplying by 1/10 gives me 10% of a total. So that is why that is the value attached to X there. But really, if you think about this 150 plus, that's all you need to know. So from this point forward, once you've watched this, you're going to be in a good position to have taken in at least hopefully you learned something as you went through. And now you're going to go into Canvas. And on Monday, there's going to be another review quiz posted. So you're going to go back into the green books and look at another chunk of questions, all related to the same content. So again, we're going to focus on this slope, intercept, form stuff. Again, there's going to be this review after this next one, and then there's going to be one more after that. And then we're going to start looking at equations, variables on both sides, no solution, one solution, infinitely many solutions, and then also graphing to figure out where two things cross. So stay tuned, and you will get another quiz posted in Canvas on Monday. Hope you guys are well. Miss you. Bye.